to start with a parable, an ancient parable about 3 masons. And they're working on these bricks, and this gentleman comes by, sees these 3 guys working, and he says to the one guy, "What are you doing?" And the gentleman says, "I am laying bricks, because this is what I do for a living." Goes up to the second gentleman and says, "Well, what are you doing?" He says, "I am building a wall, because I want to be the best bricklayer in the country. That's my desire, that's my goal." Goes to the third one and says, "So tell me, what are you working on?" He said, "I'm working on building a beautiful cathedral, because I want people to experience the beauty of the work that I'm doing." All 3 of them had a different focus. They had a different motivation, they had different drive. So why do you lead? Why are you choosing to be a leader? What's your motivation? What's your drive? Now, if we go to the next slide, we look at the American dream. For a lot of people, these 4 reasons, the 4 P's, are what drive them in their career, in their job, maybe in their life. So I'd like you to look at those 4, and I'd actually like you to put percentages. And I know as volunteers, you're not going to be paid, so you're not doing this for the pay. But when you think about your occupation, your career, what percentage of it is for pay? What percentage is for prestige, for perks, or for power? So do that now. Just jot down the percentages as to what you might be motivated by. Are you motivated by pay, prestige, perks, or power? Out of 100%. So it has to add up to 100. Now there are 2 P's that are missing. Can anyone guess?
Purpose.
Purpose. Jordan got 1. Okay, there's 1 more P missing. Can anyone guess what the other P is?
Plan.
That's good, but that's not it. That's a good guess. The other P is people. Now, if you factor in those other 2 P's, now you have 6 P's, and you do the percentage again, it'd be interesting to see what your percentages are based on not just those 4, but also purpose and people. Because if you're a servant leader, you're all about people and you're all about purpose. And purpose is what you're doing? What purpose does it have for the people that you're working with, the team that you have put together? Are you self-driven or are you others-driven? Now, a lot of the power-driven people, which is the next slide, the power-driven people, these are the personality types of power-driven people. Obviously, we all know power-driven people. They are micromanagers. They have a hard time delegating to others. They tend to be hypercritical to the point where it just seems like it's never good enough. Maybe some of you have worked for people like this. They're self-serving. Self-serving to the point where they take all of the credit and no blame. That's the power-driven person. Very different than the servant leader. These people are not servant leaders. Now, Paul talks about what a servant leader is like. So if we could go to the next slide and look at Philippians. Can someone read that?
Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Don't look out for only your own interests, but take an interest in others too. You must have the same attitude that Christ had. Though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the humble position of a slave and was born as a human being. When he appeared in human form, he humbled himself in obedience to God and died a criminal's death on the cross.
Thank you. What do you take from that? What's Paul encouraging us to do or to be?
Servants.
To be servants. To be Christ-like. Because if you want to be a good leader, you must be a good servant. Good leaders are able to serve. And certainly, Christ is the perfect example of a servant leader. Next slide. I talk about the leadership styles. So there's the command style, there's the coaching style. Coaching is part of what servant leaders are all about. They're about teaching, but they're also about encouraging. That's what a servant leader does. They encourage. They focus on the positive aspects of the individual. They also focus on guiding. Like a shepherd with their sheep. They're using the staff to guide the sheep, not to beat the sheep. It's not about punishing the person, because that doesn't motivate people. Being hypercritical and being punishing is not a motivator, but guiding them and providing them with direction and encouragement and support is what a servant leader looks like. A servant leader cares. They care. They're compassionate. They're sensitive. They're understanding. Not like someone who interrupts. Have you ever worked with someone who interrupts all the time, or talks over you, or ignores you when you're speaking? That would not be traits or characteristics of a servant leader. So we can go to the next one. Sam Walton. Can anyone read his quote out loud?
Outstanding leaders go out of their way to boost the self-esteem of their personnel. If people believe in themselves, it's amazing what they can accomplish.
Thank you. Thank you. People are the greatest asset of an organization. People are the greatest asset of an organization. And how you treat them is going to determine how hard they work for you, what kind of job that they do. So it's so important that you pay attention to the people that work for you. Now, in this case, we're talking about the teams that you lead, the ways in which you're involved in the church. That is going to be so important that you focus on the people. Leadership. Now, leadership It's a verb. It's an action. It requires us to take action. It requires determination. And determination in the sense of perseverance, but also commitment and sacrifice. In order to be a good leader, you have to be fully committed, fully engaged. And it does require sacrifice. The second one is it's a learned skill. What I mean by that is good leaders are constantly learning. Good leaders are looking to do the best that they can, and they realize that it's a process. And they're constantly wanting to learn more, to be better at what they do. They also have confidence. They have confidence in their own skills and abilities, but they have confidence in their team. They trust their team. They have the mindset of the team works with us, not for us. Very different. They work with us. We're part of the team. We're no better because we're leaders. We're no better than the next person. We're the same. The rules are the same for us as they are for the rest of the team members. That's part of being a servant leader. Now there's a clip from one of my favorite movies, Remember the Titans. And it's about leadership. And so I want to play that, but when you watch this, think about what jumps out for you in viewing this clip.
Well, I'm Coach Boone. I'm going to tell you all about how much fun you're going to have this season. This is no democracy. It is a dictatorship. I am the law. If you survive camp, you will be on the team. If you survive.
Now, you think you're doing these boys a favor, taking them aside every time I come down, protecting them from Big Bad Boone. You challenge my authority in front of the entire football team, Coach. You're cutting my legs from under me. You ain't doing these kids a favor by patronizing. You're crippling them. You're crippling them for life. Now, I may be a mean cuss, but I'm the same mean cuss with everybody out there on that football field.
Each one of you will spend time every day with a teammate of a different race. You will learn about him and his family, his likes, his dislikes. You'll report back to me until you meet every one of your teammates. If we don't come together right now on this hollow ground, we too will be destroyed. Just like they were. I don't care if you like each other or not, but you will respect each other. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll learn to play this game like men.
Is this even about football anymore? Or is it just about you?
I'm a winner. I'm going to win.
Everything's not always about winning and losing.
You think I was blinded by my own ambition? Maybe I pushed them too hard.
Boys are doing all that you can do. Anybody can see that. Win or lose, we're gonna walk out of this stadium tonight with our heads held high. Do your best. That's all anybody can ask for.
I know football. What you did with those boys. You were the right man for the job, Coach.
What you did with those boys. What did he do with those boys?
I think he broke them and reshaped them, or let them reshape themselves amongst the team. taught them how to trust each other.
Yes. Yeah. Anyone else?
Being more like a family, a community, and helping each other out.
Right. So, if you've seen the movie, you know that they were self-driven. They weren't team-driven. They didn't care about each other. They cared about themselves. Whether it was to get a scholarship, whether it was to excel, until he came in. And what did he do that was so significant? I mean, I know part of it was the differences in races, but what did he do that was so significant?
He found a way to make them see that the team is more important than their individual.
Yes, yes. You remember what he said? I want you to spend time with members of the opposite race, and I want you to learn about them. I want you to learn about their family. I want you to learn about who they are. Not just how well they play football, but I want you to know the person. He brought them together because all of a sudden their focus was on the relationship, the connection between the team members. They became a team, and they went from boys to men. He grew them up in a short amount of time. They also learned the golden rule, which is teach others, treat others the way you want to be treated. They learned that golden rule, and they became successful as a team. Next slide, please. So the focus of servant leaders is on significance. Significance is having a positive impact on the people around you. It's focused on valuing people, not things. Not success. A lot of people would define success as material wealth or possessions or status. But that's not what servant leaders are all about. Servant leaders value people. That's why I love this church, and I love God, love people, change the world. And I find that so interesting because if you don't love God and you don't love people, then you're not going to be able to change the world. So a lot of leaders, forget about God for a minute, sorry, but a lot of leaders don't love people. Some of them hate people, and they're still leaders. In order to be a servant leader, it's so important that you love people, because you will be able to change the world if you love people and you love God. That will help you in making a difference in people's lives, because that's what significance is all about. It's about leaving a legacy behind. Who do you have impact on? The people that you encounter, whether it be at your church, in your community group, a team that you're a part of, certainly your friends and your family. But that's the way you change people, is through significance. By focusing on the impact that you can have on those people's lives. That's what significance is all about. Interdependence is very different than independence. Independence is working separately as individuals. Now, a lot of times in my work, I see couples who are independent. They're on parallel paths. They're operating independently. Well, it's the same with a leader. If you have several team members, but they're all doing their own thing, you need collaboration, and that requires interdependence, where there's overlap between what you do and what they do, and then there's some separateness. But working together and collaboration is what makes a successful leader. And then the last one is this relational bank account. This is a Stephen Covey term. And what it means is that there's deposits and there's withdrawals. And a deposit would be saying something nice, encouraging, kind, positive, supportive. That would be making a deposit to an individual. A withdrawal would be ignoring someone, giving them the cold shoulder, saying something hurtful or mean. That would be a withdrawal. So when you think about the people that you interact with, are you making more deposits or more withdrawals? Because that'll determine how these people do, how hard they work for you, or how much they want to be a part of your team. It takes 4 deposits to even out 1 withdrawal. So a lot of the couples that I see have made large withdrawals and very few deposits. And they're in the red. Servant leadership. I don't know if you know this, but Southwest Airlines is all about servant leadership. It was so funny when I was giving this talk at Boeing. I did a whole segment on Southwest Airlines. Now, Boeing makes planes for Southwest Airlines. But Southwest Airlines, they have this elaborate employee recognition program. And it's all about their staff, their people. It's all about acknowledging them and boosting them and giving them rewards for positive service, for good service. Southwest Airlines is all about creating servant leaders. They value their people. Servant leaders are also trustworthy. Now, trust is being consistent both in your words and your actions over time. A leader wants to be consistent. So you want to follow through on what you say you're going to do. If you tell someone you're going to take care of it, you take care of it. If you tell someone they're going to be responsible for this segment, then that's what you follow through with. It's so important that you build trust, because that's part of a relationship. Without trust, you don't have a relationship. So trust is an important part of being a leader. And the last one is being an active listener. Servant leaders pay attention to what people are saying. They are more concerned about seeking understanding rather than seeking to be understood. Servant leaders seek understanding first before seeking to be understood. That's a big difference. Now, the next slide is from John, and this is John 13:12 through 15. If someone can read that scripture verse.
After washing their feet, he put on his robe again and sat down and asked, "Do you understand what I was doing?" You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, because that's what I am. And since I, your Lord and teacher, washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you.
Jesus, the perfect servant leader. What was Jesus trying to convey to his disciples?
None of us are too good to get down on our hands and knees and wash someone else's feet.
Yes.
Humility.
Absolutely.
As leaders, you also have to be willing to do the same work that your people are doing.
Yes. Yes. As a Christian, as a disciple, we need to be willing to serve. We need to be willing to forgive. And we need to be sacrificial in our giving. That if Jesus can do it, then we can do it. He's the example. So why, next slide, why servant leadership? When you're a servant leader, you're helping people be the best that they can be. You're helping grow them up. That's what servant leadership is all about. Growing them up as individuals. Also, when there is significant satisfaction in employees, when employees are satisfied, they're more likely to satisfy their customers. So when employees are happy, all of a sudden the customers are happy. So it's important when you're a servant leader to be focused on, are the employees, are the staff happy? Because that's going to make the customers happy. And servant leaders are all about teamwork. They're all about the 3 C's. Collaboration, cooperation, and communication. When you have those as part of your focus, as part of your emphasis, then you will be a better leader. These are the characteristics of a servant leader. Patience, humility, authentic, and accountable. Servant leaders are able to forgive. Servant leaders are able to learn from others. They also have the ability to apologize. They have the ability to be transparent, be direct. They go by the same rules. The rules are not different for a servant leader. They're the same for everyone. And servant leaders accept responsibility from others. Now this is a wonderful quote from Jim Rohn. The challenge of leadership is to be strong, but not rude. Be kind, but not weak. Be bold, but not bully. Be thoughtful, but not lazy. Be humble, but not timid. Be proud, but not arrogant. Have humor, but without folly. It's finding that balance. That's what leadership is all about. Finding that healthy balance of leading, but not consuming or overwhelming the other person, where it's not all about you. It's more about the team. So empowering people, giving them a hand up so that they can be better at what they do. It requires us to be connected, to stay involved, to stay engaged. It requires us to accept responsibility for how we're going to work with the team, to be leading through our actions, not just our words, but our actions, and to be able to communicate respectfully to the people that we're working with. Now, there's another company that has adopted this servant leadership attitude or focus. Popeyes. Popeyes, now it's called Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen. And about 8 or 10 years ago, they brought in this new CEO, Cheryl Batchelor, or something like that. They brought her in, and she had a completely different approach to running this company. She went and met with all the franchise owners, and she said, how can I help you? What can I do to help your business? How can I help you grow your business? She had a whole list of questions that she went through with all the franchise owners throughout the country. And then she put together elaborate surveys for the customers. She wanted to know how this company can be better, can do better, and can serve not only the staff, but the customers, the people. She created a servant culture, and it made a huge difference. The stock shares went up from, I believe it was like $13 a share to $60 a share in a short amount of time. But it was the mindset, it was the attitude that she was able to create for the people that were part of this business. Now, Mark, this is from Mark 10:45. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and give his life as a ransom for many. So Jesus came to serve and to save. Jesus came to serve and to save. That's the mindset that we want to look towards. Serving. So I try to be a servant leader at my job. And so what are some examples of that? Well, I work in a private practice. It's an office. You know, I have 2 staff people, and I don't mind taking out the garbage. I don't mind making the coffee. I don't mind doing things that are not under, quote, my job description, but it doesn't bother me to do that. It doesn't bother me to get dirty, to be sweeping up something or vacuuming something if it needs to be done. And that's part of being a servant leader, is basically being comfortable doing whatever it takes and showing the people around you that you're not too good or too, powerful or too important, that you can't do everything that they do. That there's equality. That you want to help them to be the best that they can be. And you care about them. Something that I will often do is I'll ask, how was your weekend? What did you do? How's your spouse doing? How are your kids? I want to know those things because I care. I care about my employees. I care about the people that I work around. It creates a different environment when you care. John Maxwell has a great quote. People do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. What's more important is that you show that you care for people, because being a servant leader is all about focusing